Hey, my friends, let me give you a preview of one of our next readings in Enlightenment and Autonomy. We're looking at the correspondence between Princess Elisabeth of Bohemia and Descartes concerning the relationship between mind and body. We just finished taking a look at Descartes' overall philosophy. We read the meditations, and in the sixth meditation, he proves, to his own satisfaction, but he gives a good argument for the real distinction between mind and body. The mind is a thing that thinks. The body is a thing that's extended, a thing that takes up space. The body, the human body, right, takes up space. It's got size, shape, some degree of motion and rest. And the mind is a thing that thinks. And Descartes argues that the mind, though is in the body, right? The mind and the body are intermingled in some way, but what the mind really is especially the pure intellect. There's several things going on in the human mind. In your mental life, you've got sensation and imagination. Sensation and imagination, Descartes thinks, hey, those feel actually a little bit physical, a little bit bodily. And they do seem to be a bit bodily, right? Sensation seem to be receiving images from outside you, right? And not just images, of course. There's lots of different sense things we sense, right? Sense objects. But imagination, too. Picturing in your mind, right? Picture a ball, a beach ball in your mind. Picture waves in the ocean in your mind, right? The imagination, even though it's picturing in your mind, Descartes thinks that's also pulling from your experiences, your physical experiences. So it's the pure intellect. When you think of, say, a Chiliagon, thousand-sided figure, you can't picture a Chiliagon in your mind. You can't. It's not going to happen. But you can discover some things about it. You can really learn facts about the Chiliagon, even though there's no Chiliagon in your mind. So we have access to these ideas, these pure ideas, these ideas that have nothing to do with the body, Descartes says. It's very clear that you are a thing that thinks, and it takes a while to recognize that there's a extended body attached to that in some way. All right, that's all in the meditations. Okay, Princess Elisabeth of Bohemia. Here I'm reading from this volume edited by Margaret Atherton. Princess Elisabeth of Bohemia has a question for Descartes and wants to know, here, I'll read it. I beseech you, tell me how the soul of man, since it is but a thinking substance, can determine the spirits of the body to produce voluntary actions. Now, the spirits of the body, let's not get confused because, soul-spirit talk is pretty frequent. These spirits are the animal spirits. This is spirits like fine wines and spirits, right? Very subtle fluids. The spirits talked about here are the fine fluids running through your body that make things work. Descartes thinks of the body as basically a machine. And the nerves operate basically like pulleys, and everything moves through pressure and pulls. Pulls are a little more complicated, actually, but pressure having to do with the animal spirits, these fine fluids running through your veins. Running through your nerves. This is a little dated, of course, but the question is, hey, if what's going on is that your mind wants something and then your body starts moving towards it, how does the mind, the non-physical thing, it's a thinking thing, it's not extended, it doesn't take up space, how can the mind push the animal spirits? The animal spirits are physical, right? It's a very fine fluid. How can it operate the body? If the body is an extended thing and the mind is an unextended thinking thing, the body, right? How does the body push? How does the mind push the body around like it's clearly doing? How does the mind? How does the body how does the body communicate to the mind, right? When I experience things and light hits the eye, I get images in my mind, right? I learn things from my body. So how does this interaction take place? Clearly, your mind affects your body. Clearly, your body affects your mind, right? Descartes' not going to deny these things. So what happens, right? What happens? Well, that's Elisabeth's question. What happens? How can, right, if we're going to be dualists, Descartes, if we're going to say that the mind is one kind of substance and the body is a radically different kind of substance, how do the two interact? Seems impossible. Descartes' answer, not very satisfying, at least at first. And I'll just give you a preview of it, and in our discussion, we'll talk about it in much more detail. But he says, hey, you know what? Even though the mind is one thing and the body is another thing, let's think about it in terms of notions. Let's think about it in terms of what we know, what we get access to. We find within ourselves the idea of body. We find within ourselves the idea of mind, right? Of a thinking thing, the idea of an extended thing. We have separately the notion of the composite, the mind-body union. We understand the embodied human, the embodied mind, separately. We don't understand it as a body and a mind. We understand it as a unit, as a whole. So we need to approach it independently. So we know some things. We know some things by just thinking about the mind. We can figure out what the mind is like and learn things about the mind. We learn some things by thinking about the body, figuring out that the body is an extended thing and all that sort of stuff. But then we need to turn our attention to the union, the mind-body union, to understand that separately. Is this, I mean, we're saying that the composite shouldn't be understood by the parts? Seems a little suspicious. Don't we still need to come up with an explanation of how they interact? Well, I don't know. Let's read. Read along with us.